So that's what I have for you here today, an Arceus V-Star deck for each type, for you to get your teeth stuck into. Sound good? Like the video, let's get involved.
So, we are starting off as normal with a 3-3 line of our Arceus VSTAR. We don't need a full 4-4 in this one because it's not our primary attacker, as it were. We're just going to use it to set up our 2 Dragonite Vs. A really cool looking card. Look at that artwork and tell me that Dragonite isn't ready for action. Basic Pokemon, 230 HP with 2 attacks. First one is Shred. For 2 energy, you do 50 damage and then it goes through all effects. That's not bad. Decidueye might be decent in the next format. Having some form of Shred is pretty good. But then our main attack is Dragon Gale. For 2 water and a lightning energy, you do 250 damage and then 20 to all your benched Pokemon. That's unfortunate, but 250 with a choice belt is 280 in combination with some quick shootings. That could be rather good. We're getting into the point where we can start to get close to one-shotting Vmaxes. And if we don't one-shot the Vmax, we can clean up with this mighty fine gentleman, Medicham V. Basic Pokemon, 210 HP. And the main attack we're going to be using is Yoga Loop. Basically for 2 energy or a twin or that new double colorless energy we can attach. Put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. If you do and they get KO'd, take another turn. So here's a scenario for you, right? Your opponent has a Vmax. You have a Dragonite V with a choice belt attached. You do 280. You quick shoot in that turn. Also, it's now on 300. If that is a 320 HP Vmax, you just come in, Yoga Loop it, you get another turn. Now you can Arceus, try and pluck out a boss, get a hit on their next attacker, any sort of madness like this. Honestly, this deck was Medicham and Dragonite was decent in the current format we're in now. Go check the video out, I've done a profile on it. But with Choice Belt, it gets a whole lot more crazy. So I've mentioned Intellion quite a bit. Obviously, we're going to play 2 of the quick shooting Intellions. Intellion are really good, letting you put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Just a really good ability, in all honesty. When you start pushing your Dragonite, start taking 3 prize knockouts in one attack, you have to say it's a pretty good card. But we still play 1 Shady Dealings Intellion. Obviously, when you evolve it, you can search your deck for 2 trainers, put them straight into your hand. An incredible amount of search you have in an Intellion deck when you're also playing Arceus V-Star. Cards are just flying out your deck left, right and centre, and honestly, I'm all for it. No more Dead Draw City for us, baby. Jeez, because we play 4 of the young Drizzies. 90 HP, obviously, with that Shady Dealings ability when you evolve them, letting you grab 1 trainer, putting them in your hand, keeping us nice and consistent. Then obviously, to round out our Pokemon, we play 4 Keep Calling Sobble. Now, there are some Pokemon that I wish we could fit in here and I want to try out. Number 1 is the Farfetch, that Leak Slap. Obviously, on the back of an Arceus V-Star attack, that just cleans up. And it does the same after a Dragonite V as well for 1 attachment. I'd also like to try Cramorant in here as well, because Cramorant in combination with Melanie and the double turbo energy means you can get that spit shot and 140 damage snipe off in 1 turn, maybe as a surprise, and in combination with quick shootings Intellion, you can actually increase that back up to its 160 break point. So that Cramorant V also interests me, but for now it doesn't make the cut. 3 Professors Research. It's interesting, and I feel as if the sort of Melanie Arceus V-Star sort of deck will get refined over time, because the support alliance is really interesting. Because you can make an argument for not playing Melanie, because you just attach all the energies off your Trinity Star. In which case you don't need Melanie. But then Melanie strikes me as really good to have if you get surprise KO'd or anything like this, then you can Melanie get back in the race. So peaks and troughs really. For now, I've settled for 3 research, 3 bosses orders. We want to be taking big KOs, so we want to have 3 boss. Now, in Intellion decks, it's hard to fit 4, but 3 is a happy medium. I don't like playing 2. Speaking of Melanie, there she is, letting you attach 1 water from your discard pile to one of your V Pokemon, then draw 3 cards. I think it's just quite nice, in all honesty, because after you do your first Trinity Star, you want to go in with the Dragonite, right? When that Dragonite gets KO, it's only got 230 HP, in an ideal world, you might want to start trying to bust in with another Dragonite again, and then you take another VMAX KO, in which case you will need Melanie for that line of play to work. You don't want to really go with another Arceus V-Star, and that's why I've got 3 Melanies there. But I could see that shifting, so play test, let me know what you think about the Melanie count, let me know in the comments. And then 1 Marnie just to act as a little bit of disruption. Ball Search is a real interesting discussion right now in Intellion decks, because we now have Ultra Ball, which is something we didn't always have. Which just throws things crazy, right? Now, a lot of people say Ultra Ball is really good because it lets you find everything, but it's also quite bad because it takes away resources. And in an Intellion deck, you're already having to play budget resources because you have to fit in the 12 Pokemon or something like this. So the Ball Search route I've gone for is 4 Quick Ball, because they're still really strong. 4 Level Ball, because I think Level Ball is the best because it can grab your Sobbles, your Drizzies, and that's just crazy, right? Like, Level Balls become, you know, any trainers you want. 3 Evolution Incense, because that can find us our V-Stars, and our Drizzy and our Intellion. And then I've gone for 2 Ultra Ball. Now, honestly, I'm not 100% sure if this is correct. You might be watching this video in like 2 months' time. This Ball Search might be changed, but for now, this is what I've been rocking with. It seems to be the consensus way to go, and it's quite good for me. Ultra Ball letting you obviously search for any card, any Pokemon, I should say. 1 Capacious Bucket, because it's a trainer, it's a Shady Dealings copy of Energy, essentially. 1 Switch, because it's just a good bit of cardboard to have in your decks, especially when you can just pluck them. 2 Choice Belt, and we need these Choice Belt obviously for our Dragonite. I would love a 3rd copy. Maybe if you think the Medicham gimmick is a bit weak, you could increase it there. But Choice Belt obviously letting us hit an extra 30 to our opponent's V Pokemon, which is crazy with Dragon Gale. 2 Training Courts. This is just so we can get back our Lightning Energy, because our Dragonite needs 1 Lightning Energy. And then for some reason, if you prize a couple, they hit a discard pile early, we might need to get them back. Training Court will help us do that. Now, we might have to increase our stadium count depending on how popular Path to the Peak is. Path to the Peak is really good at shutting down Arceus V-Star, funnily enough, so you might have to start increasing stadium counts when the set comes out. But for now, in a preset meta, I think 2 stadiums might be a little bit on the low side, but we should be okay. 3 Double Turbo Energy. Now, we're not so reliant, I feel, in this deck to run 4 because we have got Melanie, but 3 is obviously just really nice. Yeah, 3 I should say, because it lets you fulfill Medicham and fulfill Arceus V-Star. You could argue a 4th, really. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 Water Energy. Now, I thought it was 7, but sacrifices had to be made. But either way, I think that's a good number. You've got so many ways of getting them in the discard pile now. Ultra Ball, Quick Ball, stuff like this, and your researchers, obviously. So 6 is a good number. Letting us activate our Melanies, you need to have one in the discard pile for that, so you can't go too low. But I think 6 is a happy medium, especially when you can just pluck them all from deck with Trinity Star. And then 3 Lightning Energies to round off this list. This, I feel, has a ton of potential. A 2 prizer taking 1 prize knockouts is always a good situation to be in. So that's the Dragon type list. Let me know what you think. So with this list, I'm being a bit cheeky in regards to consistency Pokemon. I'm not playing them. So we've got a full 4/4 Arceus V-Star line here. And we are using the Trinity Star Attack, or Trinity Nova, I'm not sure which one it is, but you know what I mean, to power up Charizard Vmax. There it is in all its glory. All you high rollers can use your expensive ones, but today we're using Charizard Vmax Pokemon 430 HP, with that wild Gmax Wildfire attack for 3 fire and 2 colorless. You do 300 damage. Now, before, 300 damage was abysmal, as it doesn't one-shot Vmaxes or anything like this. But now, 300 damage is a lot better, because 300 plus 30 is 330, and that ejects Vmaxes and V-Stars. So the idea is here is that we're going to set up our Charizard Vmax, try and take 2 prizes, if not more, with our Arceus, and then the Charizard Vmax will be able to clean up. As also, you have to discard 2 energy for Gmax Wildfire, which before was a bit of a backbreaker, but now, in combination with Stadium, and was it double turbo energy, I think it's called, you can now just reattach and keep going. So provided the Charizard Vmax has a choice belt attached to it, it's gonna take 4 prizes at least. And there's a world in which it can take 6. It just 2 bops, 2 Vmaxes on 2 turns, which would be pretty ridiculous. So Charizard Vmax and a big beefy boy 330. It's also got that claw swipe attack, 3 for 100. Could be good for maybe trying to turbo down, maybe foregoing Arceus VSTAR, right, and just going for Charizard Vmax for the whole game. Could be quite fun. But we do play one of the Charizard Vstar here, and this actually fulfills a similar role as the Vmax because it's got the attack star blaze for 4 energy, 320 damage. It actually hits for more than the Charizard Vmax, but that is your V-Star power, so you can only use that once, and it actually stops you using the Arceus V-Star power as well. So take it or leave it. There might be some games where you struggle to find the 5th energy, for example, in which case you can use Evolution Incense, go into the V-Star and bang your opponent's tag team. With a choice belt that's doing 350, that's a mighty fine number if you ask me. Its second attack also is pretty good, well its first attack I should say, Explosive Fire, for 3 fire energy. Well, for 2 fire, 1 colorless, you do 130 plus 100, so I just confirmed that, plus 100 if it's got any damage counters on it. And because of the stadium, it will always be having damage counters on it. So a pretty good number, you know, it's really good with a choice belt. And it's just a good card to have. Anytime you can one-shot tag teams on a 2 prizer is pretty good. And it adds a little bit of, a lot of dynamicism. Dynamicism? It makes the deck really dynamic. Excuse me, it's pretty early in the morning. Because there'll be some games where you just Arceus, Charizard Vmax. There'll be some games where you have to use the Arceus V-Star ability to get you out of a bind, which means you can't use the V-Star, so you got to lean on the Charizard Vmax. There'll be some games where you can't spawn the Charizard Vmax to attack with it for whatever reason, so you just go for the Charizard V-Star. And it gives you a real good backup option. How many decks in format right now can you say, if your primary option doesn't work, your secondary option still results in a tag team, a Vmax Oko? There's not many. And that's why we play the Charizard Vstar. For the Charizard V, I'm opting to go for the old one. I feel as if this one is better because it's 4 energy attack, there's 220 damage, which is a higher breakpoint in the other one. I think the other one does 180. And its first attack does something about tools. So I think this one's better. You know, anytime, especially now you got Stadium in format, you can get to these 3-4 energy attacks rather easily. And I think I'd rather have the 220 damage option, personally. And then on to our supporters. For Professor's Research, discarding our hand draw 7 is always really good. Going to help us dig for our energies, our stadiums, our choice belts, and our, double turbo energy, whatever it's called. For Marnie, again, you can see we're not playing any other consistency Pokemon here. We really want to be tight on Pokemon that our opponent can boss around, right? In an ideal world, what we want our opponent to do is KO 1-2 prizer, and then try and KO 2 3 prizes. So, but in order for that to happen, because if our opponent KOs this, they go down to 4. Then they KO the Vmax, they go down to 1. So if we play any 1 prize support Pokemon like Intellion or Bibble, they can just boss that. In an ideal world, we want them to KO like an Arceus, KO a Vmax, then KO a V-Star, either Arceus or Charizard V-Star, or maybe even KO a Charizard Vmax if things are going right for us. So, but that's why we can't play in support Pokemon, meaning we have to max out our consistency supporters. For boss, because when we get our Wildfire going, we don't want to be hitting Intellion, so we got to play 4 bosses orders. And the nice thing is, because the acceleration isn't supporter based like a welder or something, you can play boss and accelerate energy with your stadiums and stuff like this. And then we play 1 extra supporter in Zinnia's Resolve, a little bit extra discard synergy for our stadium. This lets you discard 2 cards from your hand and then draw as many cards from your deck as Pokemon your opponent has in play. Now, I predict in the next format there's going to be a ton more bench Pokemon in play. Other decks playing Arceus, for example. Mew's not going anywhere. Random Bibbles knocking about, Luminions as well. So I feel Zinnia warrants her place. For our Ball Search cards, we have 4 Ultra Ball grabs us everything, really important. 4 Quick Ball grabs us our basics, equally very important. And then we've gone for 3 Evolution Incense. I'd like that to be a little bit higher, but space. With our Arceus V-Star keeping us ticking over, 3 should be gone. We've got plenty of outs. Our evolution Pokemon. 3 Switch, because it's a good bit of cardboard. Try and maneuver around our attackers. It's going to be quite important, so Switch helps us do that. And because Choice Belt is very, very impactful in this deck, for taking those big one-shots with our Charizards, I've gone for 3 Choice Belts here, making our Pokemon do an extra 30 damage to the V Pokemon. Pretty cool. Our stadium is Magma Basin. Magma Basin is a really cool stadium, letting you attach a fire energy from your discard pile to one of your fire types, and then put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. That is insane acceleration. Stadium-based acceleration, so that we haven't seen in an awfully long time, and it means you're free to play any supporters that you like while still accelerating your energy. This means if we go for a G-Max Wildfire, right? So we've got 5 energy attached, we have to discard 2. That means we can Magma Basin 1 energy back, and then attach 1 more for hand, and then Bob's your uncle, we are back at G-Max Wildfire territory. And this is why I think Charizard Vmax could be a really good card, because before you have to be doing stuff like Rose, or like some real random shenanigans to Wildfire twice. Now we just Stadium attach, or even attach a double turbo. I mean, double turbo decreases our damage a little bit, but still. Ooh-wee! Damn. Worth noting though, we still do 310 with our Wildfire if we got a Choice Belt attached. And there's a ton of 310 Vmaxes, so it's not really the end of the world. 4 of the double turbo energy, because I need to, right? Fulfills that attack, fulfills Arceus' attack. And then I think 8 basic fire energy, 5, 6, 7. Now it's going to be interesting to see how lists pan out in the future. I found 8 to be working pretty well for me, because Magma Basin goes on discard. Once you've got like a couple in there, you're fine for the whole game. Worth noting that if you Trinity Nova some into play before doing the discard part, makes it quite hard to draw into, so maybe it's a little sequencing thing there. But yeah, this seems like a pretty nutty deck. The games I've played with it have been pretty fun. And Charizard taking one-shots. Ooh-wee! You just one-shot everything. That Charizard Vmax sits there and says, right, row, row, row. Right, we're getting a little bit experimental here, but I realised that Arceus VSTAR makes V-unions a whole lot more playable. Being able to pluck out 2 straight from the deck, or even just pluck out Professor Burnett, and Ultra Ball also helps V-unions be even more playable. So let's have a look. So, we're starting off as we normally do with a 3-3 Arceus VSTAR. Not a whole lot to talk about there. However, we get into our Greninja V-union with some awesome attacks and abilities. So our first one, Waterfall Bind. For 3 energy, you do 180 damage and your opponent can't retreat. That's not too good. And then an ability, Fill the Way, meaning your opponent reveals their hand. That's pretty cool. This, however, is the main attack we will be using. Twister Shuriken, I forgot what it was called. But for 3 energy, you do 100 damage to all your opponent's benched Pokemon. That 100 is pretty good. It means after that 100, our Arceus cleans up anything it attacks. And if we get 2 of them off, we're going to start taking prizes just off that alone, which is pretty good. Union Gain, we don't really want to use it, but it means we can get, for 1 energy, 2 water energy attached to our Greninja V-union from the discard pile. Don't really want to be using that one. And then Aqua Edge, 1 energy is 130 damage. And then its ability, whenever your opponent plays an item card from their hand, prevent all effects of that item done to this Pokemon. Meaning it can't be Crushing Hammered, and it can't get cross-switched. And that's cross-switched, I should say. And that's pretty interesting, because cross-switcher seems to be a lot of increased play from Arceus VSTAR. Obviously makes it quite easy to use, so worth noting that cannot happen to our Greninja. Now, in order to increase our draw, we play a 3-3 Cinccino. Bear with me while I just sort that out. There we go. Yeah, we play a 3-3 Cinccino, and I apologise. Turns out I don't own enough of these, but we play 3 of these. Reason being, make do lets us discard 1 card from our hand and draw 2 cards. That's pretty helpful. And energy assist is actually usable. 1 energy, 40 damage, and you can attach a basic energy from our discard pile to one of our bench Pokemon. Obviously, the main reason why we want to discard cards is because we actually have to get all 4 pieces of the Greninja V-union in the discard pile before we can play it. So that's what makes these V-unions really interesting, right? And it makes them quite hard to play, quite honestly. But Arceus V-Star ability letting us take 2 out of deck, meaning we can Arceus V-Star ability, take 2 out of deck, and then just play a Professor Burnett, get rid of 2 from the deck, and the other 2 in our hand, just Ultra Ball away, or make do. That's the idea. We also play a Lumineon V with that ability letting us grab a supporter from our deck when we bench it. The main supporter we're going to want to use, however, Adventures Discovery. Really cool, letting us grab 3 V Pokemon from our deck and put them in our hand. This is going to be really good, not only for grabbing V-union pieces to Ultra Ball away, but for setting up our Arceus as well. And that's what I think most of the V-union decks tend to be a little bit more on the meme side, but when it's paired with such a good attacker in Arceus and a good consistency card, I actually think this could be low-key really strong. 3 Professor's Researchers, so we can discard our hand and draw 7, always good. 2 Marnie, little bit of hand disrupt, acts as a bit more draw. And then 3 Boss's Orders, letting us boss around as and when we need to. 1 Cheren's Care, allowing us to put 1 colorless Pokemon from our bench, one colorless Pokemon in play, I should say, back into our hand and all cards attached to it. Really cool. Act as a little bit of prize denial. We'll get onto that in a little bit. And then 1 Professor Burnett, excuse me, turns out I don't own one of them either. Professor Burnett just lets you discard 2 cards from your deck. So that's where we can get quite cool. If we can Ultra Ball away 2 pieces, then we can just Professor Burnett the other 2, and then bang, Greninja V-union. So we can do stuff like Arceus V-Star, grab 2 pieces from deck, Ultra Ball them away, play Professor Burnett, bish bash bosh, there's a V-union. Now, depending on how aggressive on the V-union you want to go, you could increase that Burnett count just so you can try and increase that odds of getting like the turn 2, for example. Maybe flip-flop some of your Adventure Discovery, but I think right now 1 Professor Burnett is quite nice. For Ultra Ball, this is going to let us get those Greninja pieces straight into the discard pile. 4 Quick Ball, another way to discard some Greninja pieces. And then 3 Level Ball, just so we can find our Cinccino. 2 Escape Rope. Reason being, our opponent might start trying to get techie with us a little bit and not promote what we want them to. Escape Rope is going to allow us to maintain energy in play whilst acting as a soft boss, because a lot of the times we're going to be playing Adventure Discovery, you know, or Professor Burnett, or maybe even Cherry might not have time to boss, whereas Escape Rope can act as a pseudo boss in those scenarios. Telescopic Sight, one of my favourite cards of all time, meaning our Greninja V-union sniper attack now does 130 to bench Vs, which is pretty crazy, right? Yeah, it is. 1 Air Balloon to act as a pivot on the back of KOs. Hopefully we won't be getting KO'd too much, but 1 Air Balloon for those scenarios. 2 Collapse Stadiums to allow us to remove prizes. Now the problem with playing a 3 prizer with Arceus in combination with 1 prizes, right, is that our opponent can KO Arceus, KO Greninja, and then KO Cinccino. You could argue that you might want to go down just a Crobat route here for that reason. So what I've got Collapse Stadium is going to let us remove the Lumineon from play, because what we don't want to do is let our opponent KO Lumineon, KO Greninja, and then KO Cinccino. We want to try and go through the big hefty Arceus. So Collapse Stadium lets us get that out of the way. 4 of the double turbo energy, just so we can get that Trinity Star off a lot faster. And then 7, I think, 4, 5, 6, 7 basic water energy rounding off the list. Now, this might be the most far out list that we've got here today, but I think it's pretty damn gnarly when it works. And honestly, the V-unions are so fun. And Arceus makes them playable, and Ultra Ball makes them playable, in my opinion. So go check it out. Let me know what you think down there in the comments. Yo, so next up we have the potential new best deck in format. We're talking Arceus Star
with dark types. Let's get involved.
So we're starting off how we normally do with 3 on the Arceus V-Star. Not a lot to go in detail there, but this is where this starts to get tricky because this deck has so many different options, reliable attackers, good gust, different typings. Ooh, so we're starting off with a 3-2 Umbreon Vmax line. Our Umbreon Vmax doubles up here for its ability Dark Signal, letting you gust, bring up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon when you evolve them, and we can attack with it 3 for 160. Now 3 for 160 isn't that great. We don't have any damage mods apart from Choice Belt like we do in Single Strike, but 160 is a good number. Reliable 2-shot, and it lets us be really clinical with our Arceus, because our Arceus is going to be 2-shotting things like our Moltres will be. And anytime we can just bring up what we've hit, take some points, accelerate some energy. Umbreon's a really big integral part of the deck. Not to mention Umbreon V is a 1 energy attack with Mean Look, stopping your opponent retreating. And you know what? Moonlight Blade, 80 plus 80 if you've got any damage on you, actually isn't too bad as well. But let's get into the fun stuff. We got ourselves 2 Galarian Moltres Vs, our sort of most reliable attacker, you could say, with that Aura Burn 3 for 190 or 3 for 210 if you have a Choice Belt. That Dark Flame Wings ability, letting you get a Dark Energy from the discard pile and attach it straight to itself. So it's got a little bit of inbuilt acceleration, meaning it's not so reliant on the Arceus VSTAR, and just an all-round good card. One card, however, which is going to win you a lot of games, I promise you, is the Hoopa V, a basic V Fusion Strike Pokemon, I should say, of 220 HP with that Shadow Force attack. For 3 does 170 damage. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, why on earth would we ever use Hoopa V over Moltres? And it's because it has that double face ability, letting it be Psychic and Dark type at the same time. Meaning you can hit the Dark weakness on stuff like Muse and hit the Psychic weakness on stuff like Urshifu's. This card, in my opinion, is one of the reasons that puts this deck in real best deck in format contention, because you can hit for a multitude of different types. Hoopa lets you hit for 2 types, right? Umbreon gives you a lot of gust. Arceus gives you good energy acceleration with that real good consistency V-Star ability as well. And Moltres is just a good attack and provides another form of acceleration. This deck's got a lot of good things going for it. Just to keep us ticking over, we have 1 Lumineon V with that ability letting you grab a support from your deck when you bench it. We all know how good that is. And then 1 Crobat as well, letting us draw, so we have 6 cards in our hand. We play 4 Professor's Research, no real need to go into detail there. Discarding our hand and drawing 7 is always pretty gnarly. 4 Marnie, little bit of hand disruption whilst being another good draw supporter for ourselves. 2 Boss's Orders. Now the reason why we play 2 Boss's Orders is because we have our Umbreon Vmax to provide us with gust opportunities, but having a couple copies is always good in case we prize our Umbreons or we've used them already in the game. Lumineon then becomes a boss as well. On to some pretty fun supporters. We've got 1 of Piers. Now Piers gets a little meme status and I don't know why. I think Piers is really good, letting you grab 1 Dark type Pokemon and an energy card from your deck. Now it doesn't say basic energy card, meaning that Piers can grab us like a Twin Energy, for example, and then grab us an Umbreon, so Piers can grab us a Twin Energy and be a Boss's Orders at the same time, or it just smooths us over quite a lot. Lets us grab our Moltres, then we can start energy switching. Piers is just very good. It also lets us draw cards because we can grab Crobat with it as well, letting you get around one of its downsides. Like, it doesn't actually see you a lot of cards in terms of card economy. If you grab Crobat and a Twin, you then get to get rid of a card from your hand, attach that Twin, maybe play an Ultra Ball, grab the Crobat, buff. Now we're off to the races. And then we also play 1 sneaky Raihan. Reason for this is that let's say we don't get an Arceus off, for example, or in the late game we haven't got no energy in play. We can start doing shenanigans with Moltres, or we can bench a Moltres, Dark Flame Rings attached from hand, Raihan. We've now got a new attacker. We can also do something in a similar vein with a Hoopa, where we bench a Hoopa attached to the Hoopa, Raihan to the Hoopa, an energy switch from a Moltres to the Hoopa. Now we've just got a free prize clap, because we're hitting for weakness. Raihan's actually pretty naughty, and it's one reason why Lumineon is in this deck. Even though it is a bench liability, it grabs us some really powerful supporters. Onto the search item cards for Ultra Ball. We all love it. Look at that artwork, baby. Jeez. Need to get some of the Quick Ball, but we play 4 Quick Balls as well. Quick Ball grab us a lot of Pokemon. 2 Evolution Incense. Evolution Incense is important because it finds us our Umbreon Vmax. That's literally all it finds us, and our Arceus V-Star, I should say. I'd love maybe a 3rd, but space. It's nice that Ultra Ball now can grab us everything. We don't have to play 4 Evolution Incense because Ultra Ball is out for those evolutions as well. 2 Switch. 2 Choice Belt, really nice, letting us hit for extra 30 damage on our opponent's Vs. 2 Energy Switch, really cool card in combination with Moltres. It also means we don't have to go as aggro in the early game trying to find a Pokemon to do our Trinity Star 2, because we can always just Energy Switch the Darks off at a later date. For our stadiums, we have 2 Collapse Stadium, and the reason we play this, it makes both players only have 4 Pokemon on their bench. I have to discard if they have 5. The reason for that, we can fill our bench. We're quite a bench heavy deck, meaning we can fill our bench and then use Collapse Stadium to get rid of a bench Pokemon. Targets would include getting rid of a Crobat because it's only got 180 HP, for example, or Luminion for the same reason, meaning our opponent hasn't got any as many easy boss outs. Or you could even get rid of an Umbreon. You know, take away the 3 prize opportunity potentially as well. Collapse Stadium also annoys our opponent. For our other stadium of choice, we do play 1 Training Court just to help us get back energy as and when we need it. For our energies though, we play 4 of the new Double Turbo. I wanted to use my HGSS DCE just because they look nice, but these are really good just for our Arceus, and they also work really well for our Umbreon as well, meaning we can get to Umbreon a little bit faster in a dire situation. That's why we play 4 of them. And then rounding off the list, I think it's 7, 3, 6, 7, 8 basic dark energies, I should say. We want a nice healthy number just to make sure we can get some in the discard nice and quick for Dire Flame Wings and have enough to Trinity Star around as well. This deck is going to be nuts. I can't wait to play it. And if it all pans out how I think it is, this could be my IRL deck for regionals as well. So that's the dark variant. Okay, next up we have Electric Arceus V-Star. And this one, similar to the Dragon one, packs an absolute heavy punch for the late game. Let's get involved. Right, so again, we're starting off with a 3-3 Arceus line. Because we're not so heavily reliant on Arceus in this variant, that's why we played a 3-3, but 3-3 is still a good number. And yeah, because we are electric, we can play Fluffy. So we're playing a full 4-4 Fluffy. Has that Dynamotor ability, letting you grab 1 electric from the discard pile and attach it to one of your bench Pokemon. We're trying to build a lot of lightning energy in play with this deck. I'll show you why. There's the 4 Mareep. But yeah, the reason we want to amass a whole ton of lightning energy in play is because we play 2 of the Raichu V, a really scary attacker that I wasn't impressed with at the start, but when Choice Belt came out, we had to give it another look. So, Raichu has that Dynamic Spark attack for 2 energy, lets you discard as many lightning energy from your Pokemon in play. You do 60 for each one you do. So, let's do some math times with Burton. If you discard 1, 6, 12, 180, 240, 300, you discard 5 electric energies in combination with a Choice Band, Choice Belt I should say, you actually OHKO a Vmax. So in an ideal scenario, we can 2-hit the first Vmax, 1-shot the next one, and vice versa. And against other 2 prizes, Raichu just laughs at them. And that's our deck idea. So we also play 1 Luminion V just to help us draw. Now, this isn't a Rayquaza VMAX deck. Rayquaza VMAX, if it's dead drawing, always has the little baby option of Azure Pulse, letting you discard your hand draw 3. We haven't got that in this list, so we are going to have some bench supplemental attackers to get us through. Supplemental draws, I should say. And here's another one. Crobat V, letting you draw up to 6 cards in your hand with that Dark Asset ability. Worth noting, we're not playing a Manaphy here. I'm a resident of Greed City, and I'm hoping that with Manaphy format, decks like maybe less as much Rapid Strike Urshifu, but mostly Jolteon should be kind of gone. But if they aren't gone, you have to put a Manaphy in here just to protect your Flaffies, because you are going to need to keep energy in play. Flaffies do that, so you can't afford for them to be getting, you know what I mean. We also play 4 Professor's Research, obviously letting us discard our hand, draw 7, get a look at that new artwork. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, also worth noting, I really wanted to run the Zapdos in here. This could be my 61st card, letting you discard all energy from this Pokemon, doing 160 Snipe. This is really good. It works really well with Arceus V-Star, letting you finish off stuff that has been hit. But space, unfortunately. But this could go in. Keep that in mind. 4 Marnie, little bit of hand disruption, whilst letting us see 5 new cards. And then 4 Boss, so full consistency supporter engine there. Now again, board search, this is really interesting because Ultra will be in a format isn't necessarily, doesn't mean we're always gonna have to play 4. In this deck, we always play 4, right? Silly question, because it lets us discard energy so we can reattach them with Dynamotor. But what I mean is that we then play 4 Quick Ball again, letting us grab basic Pokemon, discard 1 card from our hand, and then get a basic from our deck. Good discard synergy. But then this is where I'm confused about. Do we play Evolution Incense at a 2 count or Level Ball? I've seen some people play Level Ball, and I get Level Ball. It lets you get Flaffies and Mareeps, that's pretty cool. But then I worry that you only have Ultra Balls and the Arceus V-Star themselves as outs to Arceus V-Star. So I've opted for Evolution Incense, as this will let us grab our Arceus V-Star and our Flaffy. Where that falls short of Level Ball though, is that Level Ball searches for Flaffy and it searches for Mareep. So I think together, the amount we test this deck, we can come to the conclusion whether we think we prefer Evolution Incense or Level Ball. Right now I've gone for Evolution Incense. I think I prefer having more outs to a turn 2 Trinity Star than I do having turn 2 Flaffies. But we can debate that in the comments, can't we? Be nice though. 2 switch, because once Raichu attacks, you might have to discard the energies of Raichu, meaning you could get stuck in the active switch, helps us get around that. 2 Choice Belt, tool card that whatever Pokemon this card is attached to is an extra 30 to your opponent V's. Really good for letting us reach up into Vmax territory. And because that plus 30 is really nice, it tends to mean that we can just minus 1 energy off what we need to hit, alright? So let's say for a Vmax, it means we only have to discard 5 energy instead of 6, and that is a pretty big difference. 2 Air Balloon. This is to act as a pivot off KOs. We can just attach it to a Flaffy or even an Arceus, do our Dynamotors, and then retreat into the attacker of choice. For our stadiums, 3 Stormy Mountain. Again, this is one reason why I've opted to go for Evolution Incense over Level Ball, because this will help us grab Mareep and our Raichu. Now, the reason why this helps us play Evolution Incense over Level Ball is because we have outs to Mareep with this, whereas we don't have outs to Arceus V, meaning I'd rather have Evolution Incense, V-Star I should say. So. 3 Double Turbo Energy. Again, now, this is an interesting one. I don't think it wants 4, because we can always just Arceus V-Star grab it if we need it. But it's quite nice to have. And if you want to play a Crime Rant in here instead of the Zapdos, you might want to opt for a 4th copy. But it doesn't work with Raichu, so that's why we're going to play 3. And then rounding off the list, I think is 8 basic lightnings. 8 basic lightnings to round off the list. We need to have a few, obviously, for Mareep and Raichu. So yeah, that is our lightning heavy hitter list, baby. Let me know what you think down there in the comments. Right, so for this one, we're going super consistent with a 4-4 line of Arceus V-Star. With this one, I don't want to really mess about. We've got a good, fundamentally strong deck here. I just want to make sure that we can get set up as often as possible, and a 4-4 line lets us do that. Let's look at our Whimsicott V-Star, shall we? There we go. V-Star Pokemon, 250 HP. With the, what's it called? Tricky Wind attack, which for 3 energy does 160 damage, and then your opponent can't play any special energy or tool cards from their hand. This is pretty cool because a lot of decks will be relying on special energy moving forward, such as double turbo energy that all the Arceus decks are using, and this just stops that.
We've seen this sort of effect be really good on Giratina EX from Ancient Origins, and it was really effective and strong. And what I like about this is that it's a good two-shot as well. 160 is a decent number. Now, if you're going to be using the double turbo energy to do this, it will go down to 140, which isn't as good as a number, but we do play choice band to help get around that. Worth noting, the Cotton Ball Star is actually insane if we can pull it off, and that is the Whimsicott VSTAR's second attack, which for one psychic energy does 60 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each energy attached. So let's say you've got 3 energy attached, you do 180 damage. That's pretty cool. But if you attach another double energy on there, you start being able to do heavy bench damage. Honestly, that V-Star attack wins a whole lot of games. So you want to try and be able to not have to use Arceus's V-Star attack, V-Star ability I should say. You want to be able to use the Cotton Ball Star, which is why we've gone for max consistency here. Because if you can get pulled out of the Whimsicott V as well is pretty cool. 190 HP basic Pokemon with a fluffy obstruction attack. For one psychic energy, you do 20 damage, and if your opponent's active as a basic, it can't attack next turn. That's pretty fun, a little bit of chip damage. And then Cotton Guard for one psychic energy and a twin, you do 90 damage and then take 30 less. That's not as great. But what I really like about the Whimsicott is that it's a secondary attacker that can utilize that double twin energy. Meaning, if Arceus is messing about for whatever reason, I don't really need him, but it's really cool to have get going, you know what I mean? And then we got a 1-1 of the Bibarel just to help us keep drawing through, baby. With that hard-working Fangs ability, letting you draw till you have 5 cards in your hand. Now, this list, I wanted to try and keep it as consistent as possible. I wanted to have some way of falling back and drawing some cards, and I didn't really want to fit a whole Intellion line into this, so I've settled on a 1-1 Bibarel to keep us ticking through the game. And then we've got 4 Professors of Research. Like I said, we're going to go max consistency here, so discard in our hand, drawing 7's always fun. We have 4 bosses orders, so we can boss what we want. Now, one downside of this is that we are always a 2-shot deck, so we're going to want to make sure we've got 4 bosses orders. But worth noting that once we get our tricky star off, our opponent might start to really stumble, right? Meaning they might start playing musical chairs with us, in which case having the 4 boss is pretty cool. 4 Marnie just to act as some hand disrupt. Like if we can go Marnie, Fan of Waves into a tricky star, that's a really awkward position to put our opponent in, which is why I play 4 Marnie. Now I wouldn't mind trying some more disruptive supporters in here, maybe stuff like a Team Yell or like a Sydney even, but I think we'll stick with this for now. But worth noting, you could even try Hammers. Now I think if you wanted to try and fit in Hammers, it'd be quite tough, but it'd be quite really strong if you could stop your opponent attaching special energy and then start knocking off their basics as well. Ooh! 4 Ultra Balls so we can search out everything, 4 Quick Ball, 3 Evolution Instants. I wouldn't mind this being a 4th copy. If you find you can get away with this deck without playing the Bibarel, maybe a 4th Evolution Instant could go there, or a Flex Supporter. 3 Fan of Waves. Now the reason we've got this is that if our opponent manages to get down a special energy turn 1, or if we won game 1 and it's there and they're going first, they're going to try and get a special energy and play really fast. Fan of Waves will allow us to remove that energy and then go into our tricky star. Pretty disgusting little combination really, but remember, we can always Arceus for it as well. 2 Switch so we can have a bit of board movement. 2 Choice Belt, really important in this list. If you're having to attack with Whimsicott with a double turbo energy, if you want to maintain 2-shot pressure, you will need a Choice Belt, which is why we play 2. 1 Air Balloon, solely for the Bibarel in all honesty. 2 Path to the Peak. This is a denial deck, which is why I think if you can try and fit Hammers in, it could be pretty nasty. Path to the Peak is going to turn off some Arceus V-Star abilities, and your stuff like Luminion or Crobat, pretty far nice. Now it does hurt our Arceus, which is another reason why we want to try and lean more into the Whimsicott V-Star attack over Arceus' V-Star ability. But hey, Path to the Peak is always fun. Just make sure you play around it. Don't leave yourself in a corner. 4 of the double turbo energies because it works well with both attackers. There's no reason not to want 4. And I think 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 basic psychics. This could be really strong. Just getting 2 really good attackers, slamming them together. They all give up 2 prizes as well, meaning if your opponent goes for Bibarel, it doesn't matter. They're taking 7 prizes. And can your opponent knock out 3 of these V-Star Pokemon whilst not being able to attach tools or special energy? I'm not 100% sure. Let me know what you think in the comments. Right then, so now we're going to look at the grass variant, and today with the grass variant we are going to start off with a crisp 4-4 of the Arceus V-Star. In the grass attacking variant, we're looking to heal a lot, right? And we just want to be super consistent. We don't want to leave any extra prizes on the table, which means we have the resources and the space to fit in a full 4-4 line there. Happy days. Our auxiliary attacker is going to be 2 Charizard V. Basic Pokemon with 210 HP with 2 attacks. First one is Bind Down for 2 colorless energy. Do 50 damage and your opponent's Pokemon can't retreat. But our main attack we're going to be using is Jungle Rising. For 2 grass energy you do 100 damage. And then you can attach 2 basic energies from your hand to your Pokemon in any way you like. Any Pokemon you attach energy to in this way, you can heal all damage. So it's sort of like we're getting a Charizard Care without actually having to use Charizard Care. And the great thing about this variant is that this 100 sets up real good in combination with Choice Belt. So yeah, really cool, letting us heal, keep our Arceuses along for turns when they really shouldn't be around, whilst doing damage. And if our opponent knocks out the Charizard for 2 prizes, that's fine. We've also got one of the cheeky Farfetch'd with that Leak Lash attack, which for a twin energy does 20 plus 10 for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. Real good synergy with Arceus V-Star. Arceus does 200 damage, Leak Slap just picks them off, all for 1 attachment as well. Honestly, I think it's going to be in a lot, if not all, of my Arceus list because it's so good. It's a 1 prizer, skewing the prize trade. Since we're a 2 prize only attacking deck, we can afford to give up 1 cheeky prize, and Farfetch is that one. Force that 7 prize game. And then for consistency, since we're not playing any Intellions or anything like this, we do have one of the Lumineon, basic Pokemon, 170 HP, with that ability that lets you grab a supporter from the deck. Now, we have to be careful using the Lumineon, okay? Reason being, our opponent can knock out the Lumineon, knock out 1 Charizard, and knock out 1 Arceus. So, in an ideal world, we want to try and set it up to where we can use it for its full effect, and then immediately get rid of it. And I'm going to show you how we do that in a second. For our supporters, real crisp, simple, consistent. 4 Research, 4 Marnie, 4 Boss. Nothing really to explain there. Again, since we're not playing any stuff like Intellion, all we got is our sort of Lumineon for extra consistency. We got to max that stuff out, and there it is. 1 Charizard Care. Again, it really fits in well with the deck theme here of trying to heal. This lets you get one of your colorless Pokemon, all cards attached to it, right back in your hand. This has some utility, letting us get back energy so we can start attacking with another Arceus V that's, you know, got 1 energy on it already or anything like this. But also getting the energy back means we can fling them straight into play with our Charizard Jungle Rising, which means we can then attach them and start healing even more. So a Charizard could not just heal our active, for example, it could then heal off 2 other targets if you're playing against a spread deck or something like this. So Charizard definitely worth the 1 count here, I feel, especially with Lumineon. In a similar vein, we have a 1 of Raihan, in case we do get surprise KO'd somehow, letting us attach an energy from our discard pile to one of our Pokemon and then search our deck for any card. Essentially, you know what I mean? Essentially, letting us get to an Arceus V-Star attack in one turn. Very powerful in combination with Lumineon and obviously Arceus V-Star ability as well. For our items, for Ultra Ball, we love Ultra Ball around here. Discarding 2 cards, letting us get any Pokemon we want. Happy days. 4 Quick Ball, just so we can find our basic Pokemon. We all know what Quick Ball does by now. And then 3 Evolution Incense. Now this only targets the Arceus V-Star, but we do need ways of grabbing it. And since, like I said, we're not playing Intellion or anything like this, we shouldn't really get cheeky with just playing 4 Ultra Balls as our only search. I think 3 Evolution Incense is pretty good, been working well for me. 3 Switch, just letting us keep energy in play. You know what I mean? Letting us maneuver from our Arceus to our Charizard, or from our Charizard to our Farfetch, anything like this.
just a good bit of cardboard to have in your deck. And we have to run a particularly high count again because we're not playing Intellion. One Escape Rope, pretty situational card, not gonna lie to you, but it has come in helpful. Anytime you're sort of two-shot and anytime you're a two-shot deck, I should say, sometimes you won't be able to play boss. In those turns, we can try and escape rope, you know, bring up something our opponent doesn't want in the active. Maybe all their Pokemon have taken damage apart from their active, and you can just push the active away, bring up something else, maybe like a Million, for example, and we can take a cheeky prize on that. One Power Pad, we are going to be a grindy deck, and I think Power Pad is going to be really nice, especially if we have to Ultra Ball our way our Cherry and our Raihan, or get rid of 2 bosses, or maybe we've Ultra Balled away 2 boss and we've prized 1 boss. That means we've only got 1 boss for the rest of the game. Power Pad letting us just get back these supporters, especially our situational one-use ones. And then for our tools, now going a little bit experimental here. Choice Belt is obviously going to be very important in the Brilliant Stars format, I should say. So we've actually gone with 2 copies of Tool Jammer. Reason being, Choice Belt, a lot of decks can actually hit 280 and we cannot do anything if we're O-code. So Tool Jammer is going to be our way of trying to alleviate that, stop us trying to get one shot, and keep in the race that way. But we are still going to include 1 copy of Choice Belt, realistically looking to Arceus it when we need it. Just because the extra 30 is pretty nice. Really good in combination with our Jungle Rising, really good in combination with our Arceus V-Star's attack as well. It's just a very good card. Plus 30? It's hard to argue with that. And then for our stadiums, we've got 2 collapsed stadium. This is going to be our way of removing our Luminion from play. So in an ideal world, we can use our Luminion, bounce it away. Happy days. Also good limiting our opponent. Maybe their bench is really full of random stuff. You can jam the collapse stadium into play and hopefully stop them benching anything else. A pretty cool stadium. Just good at limiting our opponent. And then we play 1 training court as well. This is going to allow us to grab back a good basic grass if we really need it, so we can Jungle Rising it into play. And then for our energy 4 of the double turbo, obviously this is going to be in pretty much all the Arceus lists, providing 2 colorless energy for our Arceus and for our Arceus basic as well, so we can use that attack on our first turn going second. Also letting us do our far-fetched attack in 1 attachment. And then I believe it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 basic grass energies, rounding off the list because we need a lot for our Jungle Rising. So yeah, that's our grass list. Let's keep it moving. So we start off this list with a 4-3 Arceus V-Star line. Nothing much really crazy there. I just want to make sure we can get to our Arceus V-Star much more consistently on turn 2. That's why I play for the V, make sure we don't miss it. And then we play a 2-2 of the Bronzong with that metal transfer ability, letting you move around metal energy from your Pokemon. So the idea is that we're not so reliant on finding twin energy, because we all know that metal energy can be accelerated via Intrepid Sword and can be accelerated by Metal Saucer as well. Speaking of Intrepid Sword, we have 2 of the Zacian for that nice early game Intrepid Sword, and let's see extra cards whilst being a pretty decent attacker as well. Brave Blade, 3 for 230, never a bad attack. Then we go on to our supporters. 4 Professor's Research, nothing crazy. And then we got a 4 Minded, because we're not playing any support Pokemon here, you can see. We're going to try and make it as hard for our opponent to take prizes, so we can't have support Pokemon, unfortunately. So we have to max out on our supporters. So we've got 4 Research, 4 Minded, 3 Bosses Orders. A little bit low there, but we have to try and fit in 2 of our Charizard Care. And this is where we're going to try and make our Arceus as destructive or as indestructible as possible. Essentially, letting you put 1 colorless Pokemon from your hand and all cards attached to it back into your hand. So the idea is we tank a hit, we move the energy off, Charizard Care, promote the next one, move the energy back, bing. We could either use another Trinity Star then, or just move into a Brave Blade, any combination of that. It's actually pretty scary, and in order to help us keep ticking over, we do have the Arceus V-Star ability letting us pluck these out whenever we need them. Now, I wouldn't mind a third, but we've seen in decks like Jolteon that we only really need 2 of these. We only really end up playing 1, maybe 2 at the max. We don't even For our ball search cards, we have 4 Ultra Ball. Discard 2 cards from my hand to find any Pokemon. Really good in combination with Metal Saucer, obviously. And Ultra Ball finds us the whole deck. We then play 4 Quick Ball. Well, hang on, let me reorganize that. 4 Quick Ball again, because Quick Ball's one of the best cards in the game. Discard a card from my hand, hopefully a Metal Energy, to find a basic Pokemon, help us get set up. Obviously, try and get that Intrepid Sword off turn 1. 4 Metal Saucers, letting us grab 1 Metal Energy from the discard pile and attach it to one of our bench Metal types. Most of the time that'll be a Zacian or a Bronzor, because you cannot Metal Saucer to Arceus, obviously, because it's a colorless type. So you Saucer onto these guys and then move it around with the Bronzor. 2 Big Charm, giving our Arceus V-Star an effective HP of 310. 310 2-prizer. That is pretty ridiculous, is it not? And that's why we play it, just to make it as hard as possible. And don't forget, we don't need too many, because Charin's Care will let us put it back into our hand, meaning we can reattach. I'm laughing because that's how disgusting this combo is. 2 Evolution Incense, a little bit of extra surge to find our V-Star and our Bronzong. 2 Switch, which is a good card in case we get boss stalled or something like this. 1 Air Balloon in a similar vein after KOs. Hopefully we don't get KO'd too often, but after that, we can promote Bronzong with an Air Balloon or Zacian with an Air Balloon and stuff like this. Also, if we're trying to reuse Brave Blade, trying to be really aggressive, having an Air Balloon Pokemon is really cool. Then you can just switch into the Air Balloon Pokemon, retreat, and then Brave Blade again. Collapse Stadium is another way for us to deny some prizes. Both players can only have 4 bench Pokemon, so the idea is, let's say we have a full bench, 1 damaged Arceus, we haven't got access to Charin's Care. We can sling Collapse Stadium into play, discard the damaged Arceus and say, right, get through this one, which will hopefully have a Big Charm attached to it and a fresh amount of hit points. That's the idea, whilst being an irritant for our opponent. 2 Double Turbo Energy. Like I said, we're not so enamored by the Double Turbo in this build, but it is nice to have so we can try and get off the baby Arceus V's attack. And then a colossal, I think 10, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the Metal Energy. Now we need a lot so we can get a ton into play with Intrepid Sword, and so we can get them in play with Metal Saucer really fast. So if you like tank decks, maybe this could be the Arceus V-Star deck for you. Let me know in the comments. Right, so I'm not gonna lie to you, fighting was a real hard one. I really wanted to build Arceus V-Star with the Lucario, the one that discards energy from itself to 60 for each one. I thought that could have been a really fun deck. However, Trinity Nova does not attach to non-rule box Pokemon, which is really sad. So I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't think this fighting deck is very good, but it's our first disruption deck. And you know, we all know how if hammers flip heads, path sticks, and we lock our opponent, we could do quite well. So let's get involved. So we're starting off with a 3-3 on the Arceus V-Star. Not much to say there. It's how we start off most of these decks. But yeah, really good. And we're going to be using them to attach energy to Rhyperior V, an underrated and underplayed card. Saw a little bit of play in a Welder Box deck, but let's have a look. So it's a basic Pokemon, 230 HP, with our main attack being Drill Run. For 1 fighting, 2 colorless, you do 80 damage and discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, the reason why I want to revisit Rhyperior is that now that we have that double energy, it means we can get to that Drill Run a little bit easier. Arceus V-Star is going to keep us moving over and potentially even Trinity Nova all energy to it, meaning we can actually use Heavy Rock Cannon for cleanup. For 1 extra energy, you do 210. So the idea is, with Drill Run, Fan of Waves, Path to the Peak, and Crushing Hammer, we're just going to really slow our opponent down. And with Choice Belt, this actually hits for 110, which is a decent number if you ask me. To help supplement our draw, we've got a 1-1 of the Babel, that hard-working Fangs ability. Letting us draw till we have 5 cards in our hand. Help keeping us ticking over. We play a lot of hand disruption stuff in this list as well. 3 Professor's Research, we can discard our hand, draw 7. That's not part of our hand disrupt. 4 Boss's Orders, I should say. Really important because our damage is pitiful. So we're going to need to boss around quite a lot.
Worth noting, Drill 1 only discards from the active, so if we want to try and get, if our opponent is setting up a bench Pokemon, we need to boss it up, then Drill 1 to remove the energy. For Marnie, like I said, we are a hand disrupt deck. If we can go something like Crushing Hammer Heads, Marnie, Path, Drill 1, our opponent now has no energy in play. It's a tough situation for our opponent to play. Oh, that's why we play 4 Marnie. We also play 2 Judge for act as a similar vein. This one obviously shuffles in our opponent's hand and they get 4 cards. They got to be careful because we only get 4 cards with this as well, but that's why we got a young barrel to fall back on and draw that extra card, you know what I mean? Then we've got a really spicy card in Olena. A supporter card which lets you discard 2 cards from your hand, but then you get to look at your opponent's hand, get a trainer and put it to the bottom of their deck. So the idea is, if we can go something like a Judge, Hammerhead, Drill 1, our opponent has no energy in play, and we've got Path to the Peak in play, they can't do a lot, then next turn we can Olena, get rid of anything that's good, and we're back in the races. And then we've got a Team Yell Grunt as well, just to act as a little bit extra of energy denial, allowing you to get 1 energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon, put it back into their hand. For Ultra Ball to help us set up good synergy with Barrel as well. 4 Quick Balls, just so we can get our basics set up and all that good stuff. Remember, worth noting, my Pyria is a basic Pokemon. 2 Evolution Incense, so we can find our V-Star and our Barrel. Now, because of all the disruption stuff, we had to cut into some of our consistency. 3rd Evolution Incense was one of the cuts. 4 Crushing Hammer. People calling their pairs, discard an energy from your opponent's Pokemon. This deck kind of live or dies by the Crushing Hammer, quite honestly. There are turns in which you can get rid of 2, maybe 3 energy in the turn. That's kind of backbreaking, but if our opponent isn't playing any acceleration or they can't attack for a couple turns, we're back in the races. Crushing Hammer helps us buy time for those turns. 3 Fan of Wave, so we can remove special energy straight from play. Really good against special energy decks, obviously. Something like an Arceus, for example, remove the 2 energy, slap them for weakness as well. Pretty cool. 2 Switch, so we can maneuver around our barrel. 2 Choice Belt, really important I feel, because it makes that Viperia actually do more than negligible damage. 110 is respectable when you're discarding energy, not quite a 2-shot, it almost is. Makes you wonder if a straight Viperia deck could be good with Intellion's next format. We'll keep that between me and you though, yeah? 1 Air Balloon, so we can maneuver our barrel. 2 Path to the Peaks, so we can lock off any abilities and really make our opponent hopefully dead draw. 4 of the double turbo energy for obvious reasons. It works for Viperia, it works for our Arceus. It even works for the barrel with Tail Smash as well. And then 6, I think, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 basic fighting energies. Now, other ways you could maybe take this deck, you could play a Galarian Zapdos, but I was quite worried with the Path to the Peaks. I also want to try Arceus V-Star with Sandaconda V, but I haven't had a chance to try that out yet. So, that's not the case, or even Sandaconda Vmax, but yeah, that's the fighting type list. And right then, for our colourless version of Arceus, I'm taking a couple liberties here, and I'm going to run some water energy with Melanie. So we're going to start off with a 4-3 Arceus line, and the idea with this build is that we're going to do some prize denial strategies whilst taking some aggro turns as well. This is like a jack of all trades Arceus deck, as it were. So we got the 4-3 on the Arceus. We've got 1 Cramorant for that spit shot, which is really good for cleaning up KOs after something's been hit by a Trinity Nova. So obviously spit shot for 3 energy, there's an 160 snipe. Now most of the time you are going to have a double turbo energy attached, so that means that that spit shot will be for 140 instead of 160, but that still works out nicely, you know what I mean? We've also got the Farfetch with that Leak Slap attack, which essentially doubles the amount of damage counters on the Pokemon. Again, perfect for cleaning up after a Trinity Nova or cleaning up after a Cramorant, provided there are 2 prizes as well. But really good, you can go Spit Shot into Leak Slap on some V-Stars. Works out pretty nicely. And because we can run some water energies, let's have the inbuilt consistency of Intellion as well. So we've got 2 of the quick shooting just to add up some maths really nicely for us, and then we got 1 of the shady dealings in Intellion as well, allowing us to get 2 trainers from deck. Not to mention all the Drizzles, which will allow us to get 1 trainer from deck when you evolve them. Really good supporter consistency line, and we're going to be able to be consistent as all hell with this deck because we got our Starbirth and we got our Shade Healings as well. For Melanie, now I'm unsure if you realistically need 4 or 3, but I've opted for 4 here just so we can get 1 water from my discard pile, attach it, and then draw 3 cards. Really good for using with Spit Shot and to get extra energy in play as well. 3 bosses orders, can't really fit the 4th one in here, but 3 is pretty good, allowing us to really manipulate our opponent's board and hit what we need to when we want to. 2 research. Now, in Melanie Intellion decks, you tend not to need as many research, but I didn't want to go down to like 1. So we've got 2 here because discard now, hand draw 7 is always strong. And remember, if we get our turn 2 Trinity Nova off, we realistically don't need the Melanies in those kind of scenarios, in which case having 2 research will set us up pretty nicely. 2 Cheren's Care. Now, I'm unsure if we need 2, 1 or 3 of these. I've opted for 2 going down the middle, allowing us to return a colorless Pokemon and all cards attached to it back into our hand, allowing us to just essentially remove damage off our Arceus and I guess our Farfetch and Cramorant as well if they've got damage on. Anyway, this is just going to be good for some pros in our strategies, allowing us to, let's say you've got 1 Arceus in play and a benched Arceus V, we can pick it up, attach the twin energy, not the twin energy, the double turbo I should say, attach that, Melanie, Trinity Nova again, got a little bit of a loop going there, a healing loop, whilst doing consistent 200 or 180 damage, pretty scary. 1 mine, it has a little bit of a hand disruption. Then we've got 4 Quick Ball, 4 Level Ball, 3 Evolution Incense, and 2 Ultra Ball, I should say. I think out of the gates, this is the way Intellion decks are going to run. Seems pretty good to me. Quick Ball finds your basics, Level Ball finds your lower HP basics and your Drizzies. Evolution Incense finds what? All your Evolution pieces and your Arceus V-Star. And Ultra Ball finds everything, but it does come with a 2 discard drawback. Now, you could argue in a deck like this, because we have to discard water energy, that could be seen as advantageous, but I think over the course of the game, playing more than 2 Ultra Balls will really thin your resources quite hard in this deck, so I've only opted for 2 here, but let me know what you think about that in the comments. 2 choice band, getting that Trinity Nova up to 230, or if it's been reduced to 180, back up to 210 if you have a double twin attached, or double turbo I should say, and it's pretty good for Farfetch as well. 1 Collapse Stadium, again this is going to be another part in our strategy route we can go here, but if we fill our bench, essentially we have 1 wounded Pokemon, we can Collapse Stadium and remove it. Also, if our opponent has a bench full of random rubbish, we can Collapse Stadium and lock them up as well. Pretty cool. And here's something I wanted to try this list. We've actually got 1 Path to the Peak. Reason being, once we've used our Starbirth, right, that's fine. We can just sling the Path to the Peak into play. And because it's Drizzle searchable, if we're playing against a deck that we know plays Luminion and Crobats, we can just sort of get a little bit cool with it and just pluck it out really early, hopefully stop them setting up. And it could be pretty crazy because with the Drizzle injury, you might not be so reliant on the Starbirth. So, or you can just use Starbirth first and then put the path into play. Rounding off the list, 4 double turbo and 5 water energy. If you made it this far, leave the comment, Arceus is a bit of a naughty geezer, so I know you're a real one. Thank you so much for making it this far as well. If you watched, even if you copy some of the list, copy all the list, I'm just glad that you watched it, baby. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, but thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.